Hello and welcome to a look at Legend for the Amiga. The game was released by Mindscape. This title is also known as the Four Crystals of Tracia, depending on the region the game was released in. The land of Tracia is in great peril. Some ancient being of nastiness has been dreaming some quite unpleasant dreams, and it causes chaos to spread across Tracia, turning individuals into monsters of various different kinds. And the forces of chaos are basically threatening to overwhelm the forces of good. Despite the fact that the forces of good are quite extensive, apparently none of them are capable of handling the situation, so four heroes are summoned in order to go out and meet chaos head-on and ultimately defeat chaos by finding the four crystals that will be able to repel chaos once discovered and utilized in various different keeps. The four heroes you have available are the Berserker, the Troubadour, which is a very fancy word for bard, the Assassin, and the Rune Caster Master thing. I could look it up. It's in the earlier part of the video, but too lazy for that, sorry. And of course, those characters each have individual abilities that they can employ in combat. The Berserker can, oddly enough, go berserk, and once they do that, they will do an obscene amount of damage in very, very short amount of time. But, of course, they are leaving themselves vulnerable while being berserk. The Troubadour can do some bard tunes, which range from increasing various different stats and increasing armor class and restoring health over time. Most of them are more effective for the Troubadour itself than for party members, but having that buffing ability is very, very nice and welcome. The Assassin is a rogue-like character that can hide in shadows. Facing an enemy in hand-to-hand combat, I was about to say in melee combat, they will not do an awful lot of damage, but as soon as they get behind an enemy, they will tear them apart in no time flat, which of course is quite nice to have for high priority targets. The Runecaster is the mage of this game, and the magic system they are using is ultimately what makes this game incredibly unique. Because instead of learning the spells and having spell points and that kind of stuff, the rune casters combine runes and components into creating various different spells that they can then deploy. And basically the availability of runes and the components for the various different runes is what is limiting the spellcasting ability. Of course, buying runes and buying components is not exactly cheap, so over time you will be able to build up quite an arsenal of various different spells. But it doesn't end there, because of course you can mix and match your spell components into creating some obscene spells, because the magic system is quite generous. It has certain restrictions, but not many, and yeah, the magic system is definitely the unique part of this particular title. As you start the game, you will be on the map of Tracia, and you'll see various different keeps and towns and whatnot. And then you will see various different enemy banners, which is chaos armies trying to invade various different places. And they will usually succeed when it comes to the small towns and things like that. But then the forces of good will send out troops to recapture those areas, and over time, that is how they are getting depleted. Because of course they will always have casualties. So one of the aspects of this game is that you have to keep an eye on the various different keeps. And once they start losing too many troops, you have to give them a cash injection in order to allow them to recruit more troops, and of course keep the forces of chaos at bay while you are running around in the background trying to kill the source or stop the source or whatever it is you need to do. The foundation of this game is a dungeon crawler. You will be navigating the overland map to get to locations, but the meat of the game is running through dungeons and fighting monsters, getting loot, solving puzzles, and all that kind of stuff. And the dungeons, as you progress through the different levels, because they are tiered in a very specific order, and the game will usually point you very specifically to where you need to go. But the increase in difficulty from one dungeon level to another is quite extensive, actually. And it is very easy to rush through dungeon levels and then suddenly hit a brick wall because everything is murdering you. The puzzles in the dungeons consist of various levers and switches and keys you need to find, but some of them are also spell puzzles where the runecaster have to mix various different spells in order to activate certain squares on the dungeon levels in order to trigger other effects. The puzzle element is somewhat logical and somewhat not logical, and in later dungeon levels puzzles become incredibly convoluted, and oftentimes you don't actually know what you are manipulating, which is a bit of a not welcome thing, to be honest, because certain puzzles basically requires you to refer to a guide, because working them out by yourself is going to be nigh on impossible. From a technical point of view, graphics-wise, I think this game looks excellent. It's surprisingly detailed. It's portraying what it needs to portray and displaying what it needs to display, and you can easily identify everything you need to identify. Certain things could be more polished, certain things could be more dramatic and that kind of stuff, but I'm very, very happy with the graphical side of things. The sound effects are satisfying. Some of them are a bit wimpy and could have done with a bit more bang, but by and large I do enjoy the various different sound effects from the spells and fighting and all that good stuff, so no complaints there. The music is overall great, but of course, because the bard songs are tunes being played, and you will likely fall back on 2 or 3 specific ones over your course of play, you're going to be listening to those tunes quite a bit, and no matter how good any tune is, at one point or another it's going to get a bit tedious to listen to. But the musical quality is perfectly fine, good, excellent, whatever. There's something along those lines. Legend got a second game called World of Legend. And because personally I absolutely loved Legend, I went out and bought World of Legend blind, which is one of the few times I've done such, and I ended up regretting it. Because of the fact that World of Legend is a sort of pseudo, not quite, but ish continuation of the Legend game. And that means that you have a different storyline and you have slightly different looking graphics and a larger scope than the original game, which is saying something. But there was nothing new added. There was no improvements done. There was no new spell effects, probably some new loot and all that kind of stuff. But because of the fact that I had my fill of the original game, I felt robbed by buying World of Legend because it felt like an overpriced Data disc to me. On another note, I've been trying to cover this game 3 times. The first time failed because I underestimated the scope of the game. The second time it went to pot because I had a hardware failure and lost an awful lot of footage. And third time, various different things just didn't line up. I became very, very busy and things went wrong and so on and so on and so on. So I ended up putting it on hold for the third time. There's a part of me that still wants to do a coverage of this game, but if I were to do that, I would be absolutely sure to have recorded a completion of the game before uploading any other videos, and in such a case, this particular video would be used as a base for such. Legend is an excellent game. It has its flaws, it has its quirks. Incredibly poor parsing, not being able to give your characters command while the game is paused, friendly fire, which means of course that despite the fact that you can mix and match some incredibly powerful spells, you have to spend an awful lot of time buffing and protecting and dispelling and all sorts of things in order to prevent your runecaster from killing the party itself. And that can feel a bit too micromanage-ish thing, whatever it's called, for certain people. It definitely did for me towards the end of playing this game. But its magical system being what it is, its scope being what it is, and the sheer enjoyment of just finding new stuff means that Legend definitely lives up to its name, and I would definitely consider this to be, in its own way, despite its flaws, a legendary title. So, on that note, thanks for watching, take care, see you next time, bye bye for now.